Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will create a stopwatch. So I guess you already know how stopwatch works, right? We will have a timer with 3 buttons, that is start, stop and reset. Simple, right? Let me give you a quick little preview of it. So this is our second project from beginner project series. You can click on the I button to watch the playlist. Now let's create the project. Choose empty views activity, then click on next. Name it as stopwatch and click OK. First, let's do the prerequisites. So go to colors.xml. Press Ctrl+D to duplicate the line. Write the color name as navy blue and hex code as 323B60. And done. Now go to themes.xml. Uncomment this line. How do we uncomment? Press Ctrl+Shift+/ simultaneously, okay? Then write the color as navy blue. Duplicate the line and write item name as color primary variant. Then again duplicate the line and write item name as Android status bar color. And that's it. Now go to build.gradle app. Over here write build features. View binding as true. Then click on sync now. Now just to make app look more presentable, I have created a background in Canva. Let me just copy paste it. And done. See, this is how it looks. I will add timer over here and 3 buttons over here. You can take inspiration from this background and create it in XML or Jetpack Compose, okay? Now let's close all the tabs. Then go to activity-main.xml. So as I previously said, we will have a timer that will be our text view. Then we will have 3 buttons and that's it. Let's create it. First, I will use linear layout. Make sure you add orientation as vertical, gravity as center vertical, and background as stopwatch background. Then create a text view. Keep the width and height as wrap content. Then ID as timer text. Then give text in time format like this is hours, this is minutes, and this is seconds. Got it? Then write all the other necessary attributes. Trust the process. Now we need 3 buttons, right? So we will write it in a pattern like 2 buttons beside each other and 1 button is below them, okay? So to do that, first we will create a relative layout. Keep the width as match parent and height as wrap content. Then create a button. Keep the width as 170 dp and height as wrap content. Then ID as start button. And then give all the necessary attributes. Then we will create another button which will be a stop button. So let me quickly create it. And done. Make sure to keep enabled as false. It will be initially disabled, okay? Then our last button, that will be a reset button. So keep the width as match parent and height as wrap content. Then give ID as a reset button and add all the necessary attributes. And done. Again, make sure to keep enabled as false. See, it looks perfect. Also, I have used linear layout, so all the elements in your emulator might look different because obviously the screen size will differ. Hence, I will always recommend to go for constraint layout. So designing is totally up to you, experiment with it. My focus is on logic part only, okay? So with that said, let's go to MainActivity.kt. Now over here, we are going to learn something new like Handler and Runnable. So I have divided it in 6 steps. Let me quickly give you an overview. So in the first step, we will set up binding. Then in second step, we will deal with Handler and Runnable. Then in third step, we will create start timer method. And then in fourth step, we will create stop timer method. And then in fifth step, we will create reset timer method. And then lastly, in the sixth step, we will call all the 3 methods in their respective button set on click listener. Got it? So now let's create it. Step number 1, that is to set up binding. So write private late init where binding as activity main binding. Then initialize binding activity main binding dot inflate as layout inflator, and write set content view as binding dot root. So if you are still not aware what is view binding and all, so let me quickly tell you in short that it directly accesses the elements from the respective layout file, that is our activity main.xml. So we don't need to declare or initialize element every time. All you have to do is write binding dot and all the list of elements will be present. Clear, right? Next, step number 2 and the very important step, that is to deal with handler and runnable. First, let me write the code and then I'll explain you. and done. Remember, all of this code is above the onCreate method, okay? Now first we have declared a variable that is running, and its variable type is boolean, means either true or false. So initially we have kept it as false. Simple. Is running variable is used to track the timer is currently running or not, okay? Next we have declared another variable that is timer seconds, and its variable type is of course int, that is integer. So we have initialized it with 0. Timer seconds variable represents the number of seconds elapsed, means gone in the timer. Now this line declares a handler whose variable type is handler and initialize it with a handler that operates on the main looper. In simple words, handlers are used to schedule and run the code on a specific thread. Now what is thread? Not that Insta threads. So in technical terms, thread is a background process that can run independently on the main UI. Got it? Then we have declared a runnable variable whose variable type is runnable and initialize it with an anonymous object implementing the runnable interface. Now what is interface? It's like a contract that defines a set of methods and properties that a class must implement. Got it? Then run function will start when runnable is executed. Then inside the run function, timer seconds variable is incremented by 1. So initially it was 0, right? Then we incremented it by using ++. It's like once the run function is hit, then automatically timer seconds will start. And then actual hours, minutes and seconds will start working. And all of them are calculated as per their formula. Nothing complicated, right? Then time variable is a formatted string that represents elapsed time, means the time that is gone, in the format as HHMMSS, that is hours, minute and seconds. See, we have used %0 2D, means it will format the string and it will show only 2 integer value. That's why %0 2D. If it will have been like %0 3D, then in that case it will show 3 integer value. Getting my point? Also, D represents integer while F represents float. If you remember, we have already used %2F in our previous video. Similarly, %2D works. Okay? Then of course, once we have the formatted string, that is a time, then we will set it on the text view. Simple, right? Finally, handler.postDelayed is used to schedule the runnable to run again after a delay of 1 second. Basically, to work continuously after each second until runnable is stopped. It's all very new concept, so it will take time to understand. So don't worry, read more about handler and runnable. I'll put the resources in the description box. Now coming to step number 3, that is to create start timer method. Let me quickly write it and then I'll explain you. And done. Now focus. First, I have wrote if is running not. What does that mean? See, is running is a boolean variable, means either true or false. So initially we have kept it as false, right? And not sign represents the opposite of it, means true. So in simple language, it says if is running is true, then in that case we are supposed to do the following actions. Like start the timer with a post delay of 1000 milliseconds, means after every 1 second it will increment. Then the timer is running, so we have kept is running value will be as true, means timer is working now. Then to avoid app crashes and stuff, we have to make sure to keep button disabled that user are not supposed to use. Like once the user had clicked on start timer button, then again he will click on it, which might lead to crash. So to avoid such situations, we will keep start button is enabled as false, means it will be disabled for a while. Also, if you remember, we have kept stop and reset button disabled in XML file, right? But after the start button is clicked, then we can keep it enabled as true for both of them, okay? Then step number 4, that is to create stop timer method. So let me quickly write it. And done. Now see, over here we wrote if is running. If you see, initially it was false. Then when start timer was clicked, then is running became true. So now over here is running is considered to be as true. Of course, stop button will only work when the timer is running, right? Then to stop the timer, or in technical words to stop the runnable, we will use remove callback method. Then timer is stopped now, so is running value will become as false. Simple, right? Again, we have disabled one button, that is stop button, because user has already clicked on that. So to avoid multiple clicks on the same button, simply disable it. But start reset button is active. Also, if you will notice, when the user will click on stop button, then the start button will change its text to resume. Now coming to our step number 5, that is to create reset timer method. Let me write it. And done. Now see, when the user will click on the reset button, first thing it will do is to stop the timer. And then everything will go back to 0. Like timer, seconds will again 0. The text, that will be also 0. Then disable the reset button, and if you see, we have used stop timer. So stop button will also be disabled. But start button will be enabled, and also it will come back to its original text as start. It's like everything will be back to its OG place once reset button is clicked. Then finally, the last step, that is step number 6, that is to call all 3 methods in their respective buttons. So come inside the onCreate method, write binding.start button dot set on click listener, and inside that call start timer method. Similarly, set on click listener on stop button, and inside that call stop timer method. Again, set on click listener on reset button, and inside that call reset timer method. And that's it. We are done with the coding. Now let's run the app. This is how it looks. Perfect. See, initially only start button is enabled. So let me click on it. And see, timer has started. Also, now start button is disabled and stop and reset button is enabled. So I'll click on stop button. And see, the timer has stopped. Also, now the start button has changed its text to resume button. Now I'll click on reset button and see timer is back to 0. Great, it works perfectly fine. If you still have any doubts regarding the project, please feel free to comment down below. So yeah, that is it for the video. If you are new to this channel, please consider subscribing to my channel and I'll see you in the next video.